Hi, everyone. My name is John Doring, and this is ZoomTRAK. Good Saturday afternoon to all ye N-scalers everywhere, and welcome to the May 2025 edition of ZoomTRAK by NRail. NRail is the organization promoting N-scale model railroading. That's N-TRAK and T-TRAK, Fremo N, club layouts, home layouts, no layouts, whatever your pleasure, as long as it's in N-scale. You're in the right place. NRail is all about knowledge, camaraderie, and the joy of model railroading. And of course, in the normal scale. So again, welcome to everyone. Got a nice lineup of things to talk about today. I think we're going to start with a video that Scale Trains, the manufacturer, has produced to kind of explain their take on the tariffs. We have a video with Terry Moore, as we often do, Talkin T-TRAK. This one is on balloon tracks. Andy Zimmerman is with us this afternoon to talk about T-TRAK history. And we'll end with Steve Englehart on some home shop built equipment. And his presentation is entitled Home Brew is the Best Brew. So I think we're getting ready to get going. Bruce, you have a video to run for us?
Yes, I do. We're going to start off with a video from Shane Wilson.
In the spirit of Mark Twain, the reports of Scale Train's death are greatly exaggerated. We've been blessed to be featured a lot in the news lately. Unfortunately, some of the reporting's been a little bit negative. And there's been a ton of talk about tariffs across social media online. And we want to share what the real story is about Scale Trains. You know, when tariffs first came into play about 3 months ago, we said we were going to take a wait and see approach, and a lot has changed in that time. 3 months ago, the tariffs were 10%, and we felt pretty comfortable that we could absorb all that and not pass any price increases along. And then they started to grow, and even at 25%, we thought we could handle most of it. And then they got to 50, and it got a lot harder. And by the time they got to 145%, it's just impossible. There's no way that we can move forward without price increases. Now, we're going to share what we're going to do about new announcements and new arrivals, and be sure to stay tuned to the end of this video, where we'll share how you can help the model railroad industry. Let's start by talking about how tariffs work. The tariff is paid by us, the importer. It's not our factory, and it's not the Chinese government. And the amount has to be paid to Customs and Border Patrol before the goods are released from port. Now, here's the way tariffs are applied. They're applied to our cost of goods, not the selling price or the retail price. And for us, even as a small business, each locomotive shipment is going to cost us hundreds of thousands of dollars in tariffs. Through the end of this year, we believe it's going to cost us in the millions of dollars. You may be wondering why model trains are not made here in America. Well, if you've never seen the video how model trains are made, man, it's awesome, and we encourage you to check it out. You can find the link in the description below. There's really 3 reasons. Number one, there's never been a factory here in America that produces ready-to-run, high-quality, super detailed locomotives and freight cars. 2, there's no supply chain. We've got to have somewhere to get those electric motors, the metal parts, the wheels, everything you need for the subassemblies. And 3, it's expensive. To start a new factory here, we're looking at an investment of over $10 million. Plus, we're going to be out of production for quite a while. It'll probably take up to a year before we're ready to produce the simplest of freight cars in the Kit Classics line. A rivet counter freight car is probably 2 years away. And a rivet counter locomotive, 3 years. We'll be out of business in that time frame. And what will it do to pricing? You know, a locomotive today that sells for around $300 you're going to see that be in the $900 to $1,000 range. If you're not willing to pay tariff prices, most folks aren't going to be willing to pay made in America prices. Well, then why don't we go somewhere else? Well, kind of the same reasons. There is no factory ready to accept what we need, ready to run, super detailed, high quality products. And there's no supply chain ready to go anywhere else. And there's that investment in the new factory. With tariffs, the money's just not there to make that investment. Today, we're unveiling our first new product announcements since tariffs were implemented. You might be wondering why. Well, as you watched how model trains are made, you saw how much effort and time and energy and skill goes into making the model trains we offer. We have to keep those workers working, otherwise we stand a risk of losing them. And more importantly for us, we need product in 9 to 12 months. That's what helps us pay the bills and invest in our future. You're like, well, hey, that's great for you guys, but what's in it for me? Well, we've decided that we're going to continue the normal price increases like we always have. And we're instituting a price lock guarantee. We anticipate tariffs will come down. If they're at 30% or less when the product arrives, your price remains the same. No price changes. If the tariff is above 30%, about 2 weeks prior to delivery, we'll send an email to you letting you know what the price will be, and you'll have plenty of time to make adjustments, including canceling your pre-order. The important thing right now is to place your pre-order. All manufacturers are counting on you for your pre-orders. We use this information to determine how many extra pieces we're going to order from the factory and our cash flow projections. So be sure to place your pre-orders today. Now let's chat about new arrivals. You know, at Scale Trains, we have a very different business model than most model train manufacturers. Today, nearly 80% of our sales are to you, our direct customer. In addition, we keep our inventory very tight. We'd rather invest the money in the future than have unsold product on the shelf. That means our warehouse is pretty bare right now, and we've had to release shipments and are expecting them soon. In the history of our company, we've never raised prices after we've made a product announcement. Today, that changes. The good news is we're absorbing as much of the tariff as we possibly can. We're also sharing in the tariff with our retailers by reducing their dealer discount. As you can see on screen, the N-Scale AC 4400s and the Thrall 48-foot two-hood coil cars, which will be arriving around May the 12th, the price increase isn't that bad. You're looking at an equivalent of basically an HO locomotive and just $6 more for the freight car. Now, there's been this rule of thumb that the tariff should add 5% to the price for every 10% of tariff. That would be a 70% price increase. You can see that this pricing is nowhere near that. Now you may be wondering, well, that's great for the N-scalers, but what about the AC44 C6Ms, SD40-2s, ES44s, and all the other models that I have on pre-order in HO and N, or even S? Well, we don't have the answer right now. We expect things to change. When is anybody's guess. So what we're going to do is about 2 weeks prior to delivery, we're going to send out an email letting you know what the price is going to be. You'll have plenty of time to make adjustments. In the interim, we encourage you to keep your pre-orders. Canceling pre-orders is the worst thing you can do for a small business. We appreciate the retailers who've been with us since the beginning. Making the decision to reduce the dealer discount was difficult. We know that this is going to have an effect on our long-term partners, and we respect that many will have to make tough decisions. Some may no longer carry our line or place pre-orders. If you order from a retailer, we encourage you to contact them directly to see about their future plans. As we wrap up, we'd like to share 3 things that you can do to help. 1, don't cancel your pre-orders. About 2 weeks before each pre-order arrives, we'll announce what the price will be. There'll be plenty of time to make adjustments or cancellations then. 2, continue to pre-order. Remember our price lock guarantee. If the tariff is 30% or less, your price is locked into what it is on our website. If the tariff goes above 30%, we'll make that announcement 2 weeks prior to delivery. Once again, there'll be plenty of time to make changes. And lastly, be watching for information on the Hobby Industry Coalition. We will be working together, nearly 25 manufacturers, to raise awareness about the impact of tariffs on our industry, the benefits of hobbies and model trains, and what's needed for relief.
Yeah, one person, I think Andy mentioned that the situation has changed even since the recording of this video, so that may very well continue to be the case over the short term here. So just keep paying attention to things. But thanks again to Shane and Scale Trains for sharing that with us. Next up, we have our monthly video Talking T-TRAK with Terry Moore.
Welcome to Talkin T-TRAK. This time we're going to talk about balloon tracks. Balloon tracks are common, but they can be more than just a boring loop. This is why they're called balloon tracks. They look like a balloon. There are many designs of the basic balloon track shapes. These are what I'll use here. The throat module for the teardrop shape is shorter than a triple straight module, while the offset is about a triple. The teardrop can be cut in half for portability. The 180-degree corner can be 2 standard size corners or an end cap. Let's see what can be done with the basics. No matter which basic single track design is chosen, there is plenty of module-based real estate for sidings or dramatic scenery. If using a standard end cap or corners, the inside track could be used as a static train display, or a 180-degree, 282mm radius corner could be added to the throat module, creating a loop. Still, lots of real estate for sidings or dramatic scenery. A double-track balloon is the most popular and uses a standard end cap or corners, and there is plenty of module-based real estate for sidings or dramatic scenery. Remember what I said about a large variety of balloon track designs? Using 481mm radius curves that can be replaced with number 4 turnouts and 315mm radius curves in 15, 30, and 45-degree combinations creates these possibilities. Using broader curves in smaller angles create longer throat modules that are better for long trains. Any of the single track curves can be used, including 718mm curve track and the preferred number 6 turnouts. Balloon tracks can be more than end loops. Add a bunch of modules, and they can create a branch from a single junction or other source. Tony Guerrero's train station is basically an end loop or balloon track, but it's a balloon track with a lot going on. The whole thing is comprised of specialty modules, which is just fine since it's a complete set. The entrance access module connects to a standard 2-track module with 33mm track spacing. Such a large set of modules creates its own branch when included in a T-TRAK layout. Notice Tony's use of specialty modules for the throat of his extensive single-track balloon train station set of modules. Tony's train station has been included in layouts several different ways. When I started T-TRAK modeling, I built this. With 3 doubles in the middle, I had an inline display on 3 6-foot tables. One end was my signature Saskatchewan wheat fields, the other a woodlands operation. The one-piece standard junction plus a standard 90-degree corner provided a balloon track throat module. I was warned that the S created was bad, leading to train troubles. At the time, all worked well, but longer rolling stock and body-mounted couplers led to problems. It does work, but test your trains first. Separating the corner and junction and adding a single solves any S-track issues, but requires a double-wide row of tables. With 3 corners, a couple of singles, and junctions, you have a balloon track. Adding singles or even doubles, since double-wide tables are required, removes any train S-curve issues. Any number of straight modules can be added depending on table length. But why do this? The alcove between the loops is only single table wide. This provides a control space for the power equipment and a private spot for the train operator. It also provides promotional space for the group, could be NRail or the NMRA. Again, due to the double table wide depth, my favorite trick is to replace the singles with standard junctions, creating 2 loops in each end for a total of 5 loops, DC and or DCC. These are the Cato Unitrack part codes for the track pieces used here. Single or double track, the end cap is standard 282 and or 315 millimeter curve track. Don't know how well you'll be able to see these, but you can always have a look at it on the NRail website under T-TRAK resources under Talkin T-TRAK. For those of you of the large T-TRAK persuasion, large radius balloon tracks are also possible. The same thing, only different. Bigger. These designs, using the preferred number 6 turnouts, are slightly longer than a triple, while using number 4 turnouts creates throat modules slightly shorter than a triple. Large end caps or 90-degree corners can be used, and the throat modules can be cut in half for portability. These have even larger module-based real estate for sidings or dramatic scenery and can be used just like the smaller versions. Regardless of the design, what can be done with an end loop balloon track? On the left is a very small piece of the current Chattanooga 26 layout, showing a rather unique use of a couple of balloon tracks. In the middle, we have a photograph of an elevator industry balloon. And on the right, using 3 balloon tracks to create a small display layout with double track loops, a large junction with the run-through track for a yard branch, double crossovers with auto reversal sections, and various sidings and customers for increased operational flexibility and interest, creates Jean-Marc Godory's Trinity T-TRAK layout. Oklahoma NRail created their Big Canyon set of N-TRAK modules, presented on ZoomTRAK the last few months, on 2 by 6 foot modules. The teardrop-shaped loop could be incentive for a T-TRAK balloon track based on T-TRAK large corners that use 21-inch deep modules. The very impressive modeling shown in the construction of Big Canyon could certainly be replicated by T-TRAK modelers in a similar scene. This may not be T-TRAK, but it's an excellent example of a balloon track design with outstanding scenery. I'm really good at making sawdust out of 2x4s and plywood. Stuart Denniston, on the other hand, is really good at constructing furniture quality T-TRAK module bases, like balloon track modules. I like decorated rectangular bases to cover the tables, but Stuart will produce those teardrop-shaped bases on request. Again, there is no standard balloon track design, so if you have a design idea, Stuart can create a module base to suit your needs. This very long U-shaped layout uses a couple of Stuart's balloon track modules at the ends. If one of those end balloon tracks was removed, this could be used to help simulate Fremo operations. Fremo, regardless of scale or specific format, is basically a point-to-point, loop-to-loop, and combination of layout of modules. A similar layout style can be created with T-TRAK modules, but not as dramatic or as impressive as the Evanston Fremo end meets of 21 or 24. Let's see what can be done with T-TRAK balloon tracks. Fremo T-TRAK is not another modeling format. It is simply an optional layout design for our existing T-TRAK modules. An equal number of tables would be needed for a common loop layout design. 24-inch tables would be used for single module branches, while 30-inch tables would be used for double module turnback branches. Large junctions would allow entering or passing of branches. Corner modules could be used in any configuration, not just as designed inner or outer corners. The whole layout is red bus supply only. No wiring issues. For DC supply, each branch could be a block. Long branches could be divided into multiple blocks. DC blocking only depends on the number of DC supplies available. Operating interest depends on passing sidings and customers included on various modules. Inclusion of auto-reversing sections would allow the use of crossovers in DCC. Layout configuration is limited only by space and table availability. Just add modules. Thanks for watching.
All right, fantastic. Balloon tracks. All right, we're keeping with the T-TRAK theme here. Next up, Andy Zimmerman. Talk a little bit about T-TRAK history, Andy.
All right, let me get my share going on here. And I think I shared the right thing. All right. So similar to I'm hoping you're seeing just the tracking with T-TRAK, right?
Yes.
Now all my notes and everything. Okay.
Yep.
So I started tracking with T-TRAK a while ago, and after and realized that it might cause some issues with Terry's Talkin T-TRAK. But this was a presentation, a brief version of the presentation that I gave at the last our last division meeting. So with that, welcome to the N-Scale Modular Railroading. Here's a brief history. And all right, so today's T-TRAK modular system is the invention of Lee Monaco Fitzgerald and her husband Jim Fitzgerald of N-TRAK fame. On August 13th, 2000, Jim and Lee were shown modules 5A Hino, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, N Club, while attending the Japan Association of Model Railroaders, which is called JAM, International Model Railroading Convention that was held in Tokyo. Jim Fitzgerald had been invited as a guest speaker at the convention and was accompanied by his wife, Lee Monaco Fitzgerald. And what Lee and Jim witnessed at the JAM convention inspired the development of the concept of what would become the T-TRAK that you and I know and love today. Lee built the first 3 T-TRAK modules and displayed them sitting atop of a NRail module at the Gateway 2001 National Convention and National Train Show in St. Louis, Missouri in July of 2001. The November 2001 NTRAK newsletter ran an article on Lee taking her first 3 T-TRAK modules over to Japan for the August 2001 JAM convention. There were 2 T-TRAK compatible layouts in which her modules were included. That issue of the NTRAK newsletter included an article on how to build a T-TRAK straight and a corner module. In January 2002, NTRAK newsletter, Lee provided an update on the T-TRAK, including the photos of their Center City set of 3 singles that were featured, excuse me, that featured a siding in a dense urban modeling. Concept was simple. The system is based on a set of standards for a module size and that can be placed on a table. At the root, minimum standards for dual track placement, track interface, electrical connections, etc. were set. These standards allowed for a wide range of flexibility in design, yet still maintain interoperability and interconnectivity, with all the modules built to the same standards. The basic concept being T-TRAK modules are dioramas constructed on Kato Unitrack and simply snap together to create anything from very basic to large complex layouts, as I'm sure we'll see in Chattanooga in 2026. Let's see. They're quick to assemble and disassemble and store readily. Since the introduction to the United States in 2000, T-TRAK has evolved to gain worldwide popularity. While it's primarily an N-scale concept, it has become popular in HO, Z, and T scales as well. If you want a more detailed history, you can view it on the T-TRAK page of the NRail, on the NRail website. These modules have gone through several versions and iterations since the initial introduction on the A4 artboards. T-TRAK modules can be built from scratch, from a kit, or on prefabricated modules. ShapeMaster offered a pre-built version in 2003 that came in different shapes and sizes for those who lacked the time or the talent to build their own, and became very popular. Today, there are styrofoam kits offered by Kato USA and offered by Kato USA, and wooden kits offered by the popular manufacturers to include Klondike, CMR Products, Model Railroad Benchwork Store, PMR, or T-TRAK by Deniston. And his modules are pictured there below. For the do-it-yourselfers out there, the dimensions for the T-TRAK modules can be found on the T-TRAK standards page on the NRail website. The module size for the straight module is the same for the 25 millimeter and 33 millimeter spacing, but the corner modules increased in size to account for the larger radius curves used in 33 millimeter format. The Japanese format was 25 millimeters, and when they brought it over, it was 25 millimeters, but it did not accommodate large American steam engines. The 33 millimeter center-to-center spacing was chosen since it's already used by Kato as part of their large selection of Unitrack. The 282 millimeter and 315 millimeter radii for the corners were selected because they fit on the 14 3/8 inch square module, and this was the largest curve that they could put on a U-turn across a standard 30-inch banquet table. The 33mm alternate spacing was quickly adopted and has become the predominant standard used by modelers today in the United States. However, modelers in Japan continue to use a 25mm spacing on their trolley layouts. As T-TRAK has evolved, the alternate 35mm spacing has become the de facto standard for most modelers. I personally model in the 33mm alternate spacing, as I'm sure most of you who will participate in T-TRAK. And for those of you who are wondering, there are 25mm to 33mm transition modules that several clubs has developed just in case they get a Japanese visitor or somebody who's using a 25mm standard that wants to participate. Okay, starting in early 2017, Kato USA reached out to the late Terry Nathan of T-Kits to provide the names of regional T-Trackers in the hope that displaying local T-TRAK modules at their booth at regional and national train shows. The first such layout appeared at their booth during the 2017 NRail National Train Show in Orlando, and since has been in the Kato booth at TrainFest, Amherst, Oklahoma City, and most of the 2018's World's Greatest Hobby Shows. The practice continues to this day. Kato USA has become the sponsor of NRail in both the US and Japan, and has generously sponsored the tables for the National T-TRAK layout, which was unexpected, starting at the 2018 NRail's National Train Show in Kansas City. Also at Kansas City in 2018, Hiroshi Kato, president of Kato USA, along with the staff at Kato USA, met with participating NTRAK leadership to discuss new module kits and to have NTRAK help with testing of pre-production kits. At the 2019 National N-Scale Convention in Chicago, Hiroshi and Kato USA staff asked NTRAK to invite their T-TRAK layout participants to tour the Kato USA offices in nearby Schaumburg and participate in the T-TRAK roundtable discussion. Despite that, what some might tell you, that the T stands for trams, trolleys, trains, two-track, and tabletop. According to Lee Monaco Fitzgerald's original T-TRAK logo, as you can see pictured here. As you read earlier, the history behind the standards also bears this out. Highly detailed and creative T-TRAK modules can compete with the best of them at national shows. T-TRAK has developed into a highly detailed, award-winning platform and is not just for beginners or old people, as some would have you believe. Think about it. In any of those cases, what must have been some serious modeling to accomplish that second place that I shown here. That was no small feat considering the sheer number of modules, layouts, and exhibits. The judges that day certainly saw master craftsmanship in these modules, far from being a toy or toyish T-TRAK that is perfect for model railroading. Example of great T-TRAK is an example of great things that can come in small packages and make a huge impact. And that brings us to the end of my my talk. Any questions?
Questions for Andy?
I would have had a little more in depth and a little bit more, but we're on limited schedule, so I was being too verbose, and Bruce said no way.
You don't want to incur the wrath of Bruce.
Nope, don't want to do that. I'll stop sharing now.
Any questions for anyone? All right. Well, thank you, Andy. I appreciate that. I think our final presentation here then will be Homebrew is the Best Brew with Steve Englehart.
Okay, let me get this thing up and we'll get going, guys. Because we need something to put on those tracks, right?
You bet.
Come on. So we wanted to recognize some of the fantastic work the shops do. As you get a visitor to your layout or they're coming to see the T-TRAKs at a show, a lot of people not in the hobby may not recognize like, oh, gee, look at that big boy with sound. DCC. Wow, that's great. But what will catch their eye are oddities, things that they're not used to seeing. And there are a lot of things that the railroad shops built that were extremely interesting, that are easy to put on your layout, that will catch people's eyes. So it looks like this thing had a couple of slides while I was trying to get straightened out, but now I'm to the program. So you guys will remember that a while ago I talked about fire trains and blowing up a little session by having some fire action on your layout. Then I talked about stirring up the inner troublemaker by modeling things that are just unexpected. So let's continue our little assault on the rivet counters and correctness by investigating the really fun stuff that the shops did. So the shops were really big sources of model railroad equipment. Most of you know I'm preaching to the choir here because you guys are into this. You know what I'm talking about. They built snow equipment, they built safety and fire equipment, but the big dog that the shops were involved in really was MOW, maintenance away. But they also built engines and freight cars, all kinds of specialized stuff. And then also I'm going to give you a little tip on how to build a couple things, drovers, cars, and snowplows that make it really easy to add to your layout. So let's start off with some snowplows. So the Rock Island had a big wedge, and they made a number of these, that they took old tenders, the old loaf of bread type tenders, and they converted those into plows just by adding a big blade to them. They're outstanding because they get a lot of weight into those tenders. In the Union Pacific, there was a big blizzard in 1948 and 49. At that time, the UP only had 19 wedge snowplows available. It was mostly single track type. They did have 3 double track snowplows, but most of these were wooden bodied. They had wood underframes. They weren't the kind of thing that worked real well for an engine just jamming them into hard packed snow. It was tough. So they decided to build some wedge snowplows, and they started using 12,000 gallon 4-wheel truck steam locomotive tenders that were left over. So that really worked because most of their plows before that time, in 1948-49, the newest plow the Union Pacific had was a flat car built in 1928. And most of the stuff dated from 1914, 1920. Just, it wasn't going to take that beating. Now, the C&W did something kind of clever. They did a kit bash on a wedge plow. So they took a plow blade and the wings off of a plow and joined them to an old RSD-5 for motive power. So as you know, most snow plows are usually pushed, unless it's something like a rotary. Most snow plows are pushed by other motive power. But these guys put the motive power on the plow, and it was an RSD. And of course, to do it, they had to raise the cab above the blade to be able to see what they were doing. So that's a clever plow. And here are a couple of other examples. If you looked in the lower left, that's from Maine. That looks to me like that was an old caboose that they converted. And then on the right side, Coney Island, they just used a trolley and made it into a snowplow that their shop built. Now, if you want to do this, it's easy. All you need to do is get a flat car, a gondola, or a hopper, load it with rocks and blades, and then you can either try building your own blade, or this little orange truck, you can buy these easily. And they're a little bit oversized for N, but I built one using one of these blades. It took me about 20 minutes of filing down and carving, and I got it just to where it was a beautiful size for N scale. And then the bottom, see that crazy grater? I saw that at a swap meet just a couple of weeks ago. I had picked it up, put it down, and I thought, you know what? I think I'll go back and get that and put it on a hopper car and have a snowplow. And I walked back to where it was just in time to see somebody else buy it. So it's easy to figure out how to do a blade for these things. So I'll just take that extra hopper, flat car, gondola you got, put a blade on it. You got a snowplow to push around. It'll get people's attention. Now, another category that shops built that are very easy for you to build are drovers cars. Like I say, you guys are in this, so you know what I'm talking about. On cattle trains, sheep trains, pig trains, whatever kind of animals they were hauling, they had to make occasional stops and handle those animals. And because of that, they carried drovers on the trains. They were primarily made of old cabooses, but they could be old passenger cars, or in many cases, they were even box cars that they just cut some windows in, put some seats in, and they were ready to go. I prefer cabooses simply because the cupola on a caboose says, hey, wait a minute, this isn't just a weird looking passenger car. This is something different. And so it really catches attention. And you can see this one, just under the cupola's got a big door. That meant that these particular cowboys were either traveling with their horses, or this car also carried a little bit of freight. So the upper left-hand picture is my personal drover's caboose, which was made after this lower picture on the right. So you can see they're pretty easy to duplicate. Here again, on the top left is a car where the drovers like to sleep with their horses. I think 3 of these 4 pictures, three of these 4 pictures deal with cars that do have livestock doors on them, or freight doors, depending on what they were doing. Then lower left is just another one where I said, that's why I prefer a caboose, because this thing looks, you don't know it's a drover's car. You just got to say, oh, that's just a passenger car. And here's an old wooden sided one. So there again, these are super easy to build. So there's tons of photos on the internet, and there's more than likely one for your railroad if they had one. Find a photo of one you like on the internet or off the Historical Society, wherever you go for a source of your prototype information. Grab a box car or caboose that you want to use for a donor car. Then if you've got a nipper, nippers are extremely easy to put windows in cars with. Or get your X-Acto knife or a little saw, cut out the windows, put in some window frames or buy some. And then, boy, you're done. Go barbecue a steak in celebration of your new drover's car. So I already mentioned that the shops were masters of building maintenance away stuff. This is pretty much all Burlington stuff. Weed spray car on the left, fire prevention and training cars. They build a lot of those things. BN safety team car on the right. Then the lower left, they had an air car, a scale test car. Sorry, I can't remember what this thing is on the right, but the shop still did it. I think it's another weed spray. And then more and more MOW. They built so much of this stuff, you just can't imagine. Seems as something turned old, the shops grabbed it and used it for maintenance away. So upper left, a UP bank car, a kitchen car that traveled behind a rotary. So there's a combination to combine this car along with your rotary kit bash. Tool cars, and then camp car down the bottom. Here's another use. Now then, I'm announcing the first, last, and only All-American Awards for shop builds. The nominations and awards are by me because it's my program. So I'd like everybody to turn your sound on so that you can cheer and applaud the winners, okay? Go ahead, turn your sound on. You have permission. So it's time for cheers and applause. So, 3rd place runner-up, Burlington Northern liquid natural gas fuel tank car on a trailer. Truck trailer on a flat car that then was hooked to the engine. So Burlington Northern and others started messing with liquid natural gas in the 1990s, but that's a whole nother program. There are a bunch of more photos of other things that Burlington was trying with this LNG project. It's really interesting. So I think that you go look it up. It's very interesting. So let's have cheers and applause for the Burlington Northern Shops, third place. Yay!
Hey.
God, you guys are quiet. Come on. Okay, let's go here. Second place runner-up, Southern Pacific three-quarter dome cars. Southern Pacific had a problem. Normal domes wouldn't fit through the tunnels. So they used their shops to shorten them. And so I think this was interesting because I just can't imagine when these first time they tried to go in the tunnels, they found out, oops, ouch, these don't work. So cheers and applause for the Southern Pacific. Yay!
That was a good one.
Okay, now the big dog. The grand place winner, first prize shop, goes to the Rio Grande Southern for the Galloping Goose. These were built in the 1930s as a result of the silver crash. These were for passengers, they were freight, they were for mail. Look at all this stuff. So big cheers and applause for the
Yay!
Yay!
Oh,
Look at all these
yeah.
things. Great stuff, man. So, in case you haven't gotten the message yet, it's simple. For heaven's sakes, please just think out of the box. So, I'm all done.
Yay!
Oh, yay! Yeah.
Thank
Here
you.
again.
Thank you. Very interesting.
We got rid of this nut job.
That is interesting. Yeah, there's probably a whole lot of stuff that can come up here if you just do a little exploring around, huh, Steve?
If you get into what the shops did, it is incredible the amount of stuff they did. And so, we've all got our favorite railroad.
Yeah.
And if you're not going and looking up, that last program I did with the Southern Pacific and all their stuff, if you got a railroad you feature in your layout and your railroad had buses or trucks or something, wouldn't it be good to maybe have some of that stuff on there? And then all the stuff they did with the shops, holy cow, put stuff on there that catches people's eyes and not just another boxcar. It just brings more interest. It's more of a scenic element. It makes you more of a modeler.
That's fantastic.
And earlier on, when you were doing the introduction to our thing today, you mentioned the joy of model railroading. To me, that's what the programs I kind of focus on, are the joys of model railroading.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. Sometimes you forget that. We get all wrapped up in planning some huge thing and that's going to take months and months or years and years. And
Yeah, let's have some fun and put some smile on some faces.
it happens to me every couple of years. I just say I got to set aside all the huge plans and just like build a kit or something. And every time I go through this sort of, oh, I've forgotten that this is actually a lot of fun. This is why I do this. So, yeah. I noticed, Steve, that this is the third time I think I've had to scold you on this, but you just cannot color inside the lines, can you?
No,
John, I'm going to go ahead and run the poll now
All right.
and challenge people to future ZoomTRAKs. If you've got a picture of something a home built that you want to share,
Yeah.
please do.
It's a super good idea. And maybe we ought to have a real contest here.
Yeah.
That's an outstanding idea, I think.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just maybe we could pick a subject every month and have people model that subject.
That's an idea. Seems overwhelming, but there you go.
We got some talented people out there. Let's
I'm
see
sure
what
we
they
do.
can do.
All right.
Lee, you don't have a picture of your training car handy, do you?
Say again, what?
Oh,
The cars that you built, the training cars.
Oh, you mean the simulators?
Yeah.
I have them right here. I can show them to you. They're in my boxes. Yeah, I can show them. These were. You can see one right here. These were simulator cars the Strategic Air Command SAC had, and this one was actually the simulator cars had pop-out sides, and I built them with that. And then there was a support car for each one for the B-52 simulator, and then one for the KC-135 simulator, which is based on a kitchen car that they had. But those were the SAC training cars that I had.
Who built those? Do you know?
Oh, let's see. Three of the cars were based on Concorde passenger cars, but they were heavily kit bashed.
Well, I was
And the
thinking,
other one,
did the Air Force build those cars?
I don't know if the Air Force built them or if they probably had somebody build it for them, but I don't really know who built them.
You wrote an article for the newsletter on those cars, didn't you?
I think a while back, yeah, I think I did. Yeah, but those are yeah, I didn't really make those to run on the layout because when I was stationed at Fairchild, they just stayed in the siding the whole time while we used them. So I put in the microtrain scale couplers, and I don't really know if they'd run very well on the track.
Okay, well, I
All right.
encourage everybody to finish filling out the poll.
Any other questions? Anything? We're a little ahead of schedule today. That's kind of rare, huh?
Also, one thing to point out that Andy mentioned is that almost all of the T-TRAK module manufacturers are partners. So if you go on to the website, you can get as a NRail member, you can get a discount. They offer discounts. So that's something to check out. And if you ever have any questions, you can always send them to info@nrail.org.
Okay. Fantastic. Thank you, Bruce. All right, everyone. I guess we're done today. It's a nice spring day here. It's back out into the yard for yard work for me without the bow tie. And we'll see you guys all here next month.
Thank you, John.